إن الحمد لله وحده والصلاة والسلام على من لا نبي بعده وبعد اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. In our previous session, we talked about the importance of our food and drink. That is our biological need, and we have to address this need. And without it, we cannot survive. That's why some portion of food has been declared to be wajib upon us by Sharia. That much food which can guarantee our day-to-day activities are not hampered, they are not affected. And then our ibadah, specifically wajibat, our obligations, they are not impeded. There's no way which can affect it. But beside it, yes, we know the importance. We know that we cannot live without the food. We know that we cannot live without the drink. It's important aspect of our life. It is important element for our survival. That's why there are many verses in the Quran which encourage us to find a lawful means of earning. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, in Surah Al-Mulk, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَامْشُوا فِي مَنَاكِبِهَا هُوَ الَّذِي جَعَلَ لَكُمُ الْأَرْضَ ذَلُولًا فَامْشُوا فِي مَنَاكِبِهَا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, it is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who made this earth subjugative for you, so you can subjugate it. هُوَ الَّذِي جَعَلَ لَكُمُ الْأَرْضَ ذَلُولًا فَامْشُوا فِي مَنَاكِبِهَا. So adopt its pathways. Famshu means simply you walk. But famshu fi manakibiha, you walk through its ways. All the mufassirin, all the commentators of the Quran, they agree that what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala means here is that we are supposed to seek the lawful means of the provision, the lawful means of the rizq. So here famshu is syntactically in Arabic grammar, it is amr, means it is imperative sentence. An imperative sentence usually means it is obligation. So Sharia makes obligation upon us that we have to find the ways of lawful earning. Just staying idle at home and saying Allah, Allah, it's not encouraged by Islam. If a person is undermining if a person is neglecting his responsibilities towards himself or towards his family, then this mere form of ibadah will not be encouraged by Sharia. Rather, we are dependent beings, and we have to find out the ways for our survival. And for this, we are supposed to find out the ways, halal ways of rizqi. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, "Famshu fi manakibiha wa kulu min rizqi." When you adopt the path to the rizq, when you try your top level best, when you exert your efforts, when you make your efforts, then Allah will make it easy for you to have the food. وَكُلُوا مِنْ رِزْقِهِ, and then eat from the rizqi of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَكُلُوا مِنْ رِزْقِهِ, and then eat from the provisions of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. However, here we must have full trust upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In our modern day life, there's a trust deficit. We rely upon our own capabilities, our own potential more than relying upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that He will open up the gateways of rizqi for us. There is trust deficit, and this is receding day by day. So this is increasing day by day. This trust deficit is increasing, and our trust in Allah is receding day by day. Prophet said, sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam, لَوْ تَوَكَّلُونَ عَلَى اللَّهِ حَقَّ تَوَكُّلِهِ. If you trust upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the way He deserves to be trusted, لَا رَزَقَكُمْ كَمَا يَرْزُقُ الطَّيْرِ, He will provide you the rizqi as He provided it to the birds. تَغْدُو خِمَاسًا وَتَرُوهُ بِطَانًا, who go in the morning as empty stomach, when they return in the evening, they return with the full stomach, with a satiated stomach. تَغْدُو خِمَاسًا, when they go in the morning, they don't have any idea where to go. They don't work at any shop, at any mall, at any business establishment. They don't know where to go, but when they go, they trust upon Allah that Allah won't return us back empty stomach. So tagdu khimasa. So when they go with the empty stomach. However, وَتَرُوحُ بِطَانًا. When they return back, they return with a satiated stomach. So Allah arranges the food for all his, and there are hundreds and there's no count, millions and billions and trillions of birds. And Allah arranges the food for all of them. On the surface of the planet, it is only the human beings who are earning, who are making efforts for their rizki. Actually, there's a beautiful hierarchy depending upon the significance of the creation. All the creation, all the creatures are significant. However, some are less important, some are more important. The most important creature is human being. That's why in our Islamic context, he is cream of creation, the crown of creation. But according to the significance, there are many challenges also. The one who is having significant charge, the one who is having the significant post, he is being paid highly, but at the same time, there are responsibilities also upon his shoulders. He has to shoulder many responsibilities. Boss in the office is being paid highly. Why? Is there any difference in terms of his physiology between the chief executive officer, between the CEO of a company and the peon of a company? As far as their physique is concerned, is there any difference? Not at all. As far as their being human is concerned, is there difference? Not at all. But why? The peon is given the less salary and the boss is given the pretty handsome salary. More responsibilities, more salary. More responsibilities, and then more wages. He has to shoulder more responsibilities. That's why he's being paid highly and he's significant. Likewise, among all the creatures of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, human beings are most important. The vitally important beings are human beings. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created us, has blessed us with this capability. You see, the dead matter doesn't need the food, so it is lying over there. No motion, no locomotion, nothing, no growth, nothing, not at all. Then the advanced form, then the dead matter is the plants. These plants, we can see that they grow. So for their growth, they need the food. But they don't have to go here and there for their food. That's why they are static at one place. And they are fundamentally and essentially important for the human beings. Why? Because they are the laboratories of making the oxygen. They have to provide the oxygen and they have to inhale the intoxicants. That is the carbon dioxide, which we release. They have to just process it. For this, they need to be static. For this, they need to be at one place. They cannot move here and there. You imagine if the trees could move, they had the locomotion like that of the animals, then life would be difficult for the human beings. Because in search of the food, they may go beyond the limit of the human beings, then creating the problem for him, and then no survival for him. So Allah created them in such a way, in such a beautiful design. They are static and they need the food. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made the process in such a way, the food, all the earth is full of food, it is a reservoir of many minerals, all the essentials, nutrients which we need, animals need, plants need. Allah has put everything in sufficient amount in the earth. You see this huge and vast space, this huge universe. This only small dot is habitable. All the essentials of life are found here. These essential elements which are important for the survival, which are important for upholding the breath of the life, which are important for the life, are found only in this planet. The rest of the huge universe, there are not such conducive elements found together. which can make the life possible. So this is amazing. This is creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So these plants, they don't need to go here and there because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made them in such a way that they can extract the minerals, they can extract their nutrients from the soil itself. By the help of their roots, they can extract it. So their growth is important because they have to make the process. They have to process the carbon and carbon dioxide and change it into the oxygen, which is essential element for our survival, without which we cannot survive. Second important thing. So after them are animals who depend. Most of the animals are herbivores who depend upon these plants. And imagine if the plants would move here and there, then the life of the animals would have been affected. It's a beautiful balance. We see only ecological balance, but this existential balance, we fail to understand that how different creatures, their existence, how it is interlinked. And then the animals, they are much more advanced than the plants. So they need the locomotion for the food because they cannot produce their food of their own. And they have to move here and there. But again, they are not supposed to work just to find the food only. There is food for them, they have to find it. But a human being is the one single creation who is supposed to exert his efforts. All the creatures of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they don't have to work, they don't have to get the wages. It's the only human being who is supposed to work. One elephant consumes 1,000 pounds a time. One single whale consumes tons of the food one time. One dolphin, hundreds of the kgs one time. So who provides this food to them is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's what but for us, he says, فَامْشُوا فِي مَنَاكِبِهَا وَكُلُوا مِنْ رِزْقِهِ. There's another place in Surah Al-Jum'ah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also says there, فَإِذَا قَدَيْتُمُ الصَّلَاةَ, when you perform the Jum'ah prayer, فَانْتَشُرُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ وَابْتَغُوا مِنْ رِزْقِ اللَّهِ. After you finish your Salah, Jum'ah prayer, Friday prayers, فَإِذَا قَدَيْتُمُ الصَّلَاةَ فَانْتَشِرُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ, then you scatter on the earth. وَابْتَغُوا مِنْ فَضْلِ اللَّهِ, and adopt the means of the halal rizq. So Quran encourages us, and Prophet said sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wasallam, best of the earning, or your best of the charity is the one which a person spends upon his family. Best form of charity, the one which a person is spending upon his family, because sustenance of family is obligation upon the family head. And for this, a person is required to work harder to ensure that he gets the food for his family. But more important thing, or rather most important thing, is that this means of earning, or this means of getting the provision, it must be lawful. It should not be haram. It should not be unlawful, which is unfortunately nowadays very difficult, because access to the haram, especially which has been made easier by this modern day economic system, which is all based on the usury interest-based economy, has spoiled everything. They have intruded in all walks of life. You need a home, apply for the loan on interest, you will get a house. You need a car, apply on the basis of interest, you will get it. So which field is there now untouched? Actually, there is a hadith in which Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam has already informed us that before the exact occurrence of the Qiyamah, what will happen? The interest or the usury or riba will be prevalent. And if a person even tries his top level best to save himself from it, still its smoke will still reach to him. Its dust will still reach to him. Even if he tries his top level best to avoid it, to to save himself from it. But still he cannot avoid the smoke of this. And that's nowadays we can find out. That's the minimum thing we need to have the account in the bank. And though we don't take any sort of interest, whatever interest is there, we just take it out and give it to the poor people. So we don't use the interest, but still our account is there. But Alhamdulillah, here in Malaysia, we have the Islamic banking facilities there to a larger extent. I cannot say the 100%, but to a larger extent, the person is saved from this unlawful thing. But in rest of the Muslim world, we can see there's hardly any Islamic banking concept. This conventional banking is there, is based on this interest-based economy, and that has spoiled everything. Because once Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, jasadun ghudhiya bil haram, any body which is nourished upon the haram, which is sustained upon the haram, which is being fed upon the haram, upon the unlawful and prohibited things, will never enter the paradise. For our entry, to make our entry ensured to the paradise, it's immensely important for us to find out the means of our earning. That is it halal, it is lawful, or it is unlawful. And if it is happened to be unlawful, at that very point of time, we need to just think about how to get rid of it. Because on one side, we are performing salah, we are doing good deeds, but on the other hand, a person is doing haram. And this haram is not just one thing. For example, a person is backbiting or he's lying. They are also haram things. But its harmfulness is restricted to a person. But this haram, this also affects the upbringing of our children. If there is any unlawful means in our earning, it will brutally affect the upbringing of our children as well. We should not keep in mind that, okay, one person is just doing this haram for his own sake, and then he is trying to make his family happier, provide all the comforts of life to the family. No, he should not be under this false impression that it will not affect the overall upbringing of the children. Is first and foremost responsibility upon the parents is to ensure the lawful and legal earning to the family, so that their food is not based on any sort of prohibited thing, any sort of prohibition, any sort of haram, because it will brutally affect their development. There's a beautiful story by Imam Ibn Khaliqan rahimahullah about Imam Al-Juwayni. Imam Al-Juwayni rahimahullah ta'ala, he was teacher of Imam Al-Ghazali rahimahullah. Now you can understand the depth of scholarship. The teacher of Imam Al-Ghazali rahimahullah was Imam Al-Juwayni. His laqab or his title was Imam Al-Haramain, Imam of two holy cities, because he remained Mufti for 4 years in Makkah, Mufti for 4 years in Medina. That's why he's known as Imam Al-Haramain, Imam of two holy cities. And Abdul Malik was his name. Abdul Malik, Imam Al-Haramain, Abdul Malik Al-Juwayni rahimahullah. Who was Imam Al-Juwayni? First of all, let me tell you, Imam Al-Zahabi rahimahullah is one of the famous Imam who mentions about Imam Al-Zahabi, Imam Al-Juwayni in his book Siyaru Alam Nubala, that Al-Fiqhu Fiqhu Shafi'i wal-Adabu Adabu Al-Asma'i wa fil Wa'ad Al-Hasani Al-Hasan Al-Basri rahimahumullah ajma'in. Imam Zahabi says that it is said about Imam Al-Juwayni, ulama say about him, Al-Fiqhu Fiqhu Shafi'i, you gather all the fiqh of Shafi'i. Imam Shafi'i is known figure in the fiqh, in the Islamic law. And I say that if we just choose 10 legal minds all across the history, 10 legal minds, Imam Shafi'i will be among them, among the top 10. His legal scholarship was quite amazing. And Imam Al-Zahabi says, rahimahullah, Al-Fiqhu Fiqhu Shafi'i. You gather all fiqh of Imam Shafi'i rahimahullah. Wal adabu adabul asma'i. Imam Asma'i rahimahullah is known for his distinguished and extraordinary skills in Arabic literature, language and literature. He is Imam of Arabic language and literature, Imam Asma'i rahimahullah. And his book is known as Asma'iyat, whereby we can realize his scholarship in the literature. And Imam Zahabi says, you gather all the literary skills of Imam Asma'i rahimahullah, all jurisprudential skills of Imam Shafi'i, all literary skills of Imam Asma'i rahimahullah. And then wafil wa'adil hasan, wafil wa'adil hasani al-hasan al-basari, and giving good nasiha to people. It's mentioned that whenever Imam Hasan al-Basri rahimahullah would give nasiha to the people, many of the people would make tawbah over there. Such was the impact and effulgence in his speech that would change the minds and hearts of the people altogether. And he was so good at speech that whenever he would deliver the talk, then it would change the hearts and minds of the people. So Imam Zahabi says, rahimahullah, you put three things together: fiqh of Imam Shafi'i rahimahullah, adab of Imam Asma'i rahimahullah, and good speech of Imam Hasan Basri rahimahullah. You put them together, and the personality which will emerge from there will be Imam al-Juwayni rahimahullah. Such was his scholarship. Imam Ibn Khalikan is another great scholar and historian of Islamic tradition. His book is Wafayatul Ayan Amba'u Abna Zaman, in which he has gathered all the biographies of our predecessors. He mentions Imam Juwayni rahimahullah, and he has mentioned a beautiful story about Imam Juwayni rahimahullah. He says Imam al-Juwayni rahimahullah is known for his, as he said, known for his scholarship, especially representing the Sunni or the mainstream Islam. So he was having debates with Mu'tazila, debates with Jahmiya and other deviant sects. And whenever he would have debate with anyone, he would knock them down because of his tremendous knowledge and his strong connection with the mainstream tradition of Islam. That Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, his representative of Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, Imam al-Juwayni rahimahullah, he was also a Shafi scholar. And he would knock them down. Nobody could stand in front of him in debates. However, one thing is that whenever Imam al-Juwayni, sometimes it would happen that he's at the peak of his debate, but all of a sudden he was dumbstruck. He could not speak and utter a single word. One day, one of his students asked him, Sheikh, when you debate with others, so sometimes you are roaring like the lion, but sometimes all of a sudden you are dumbstruck. You cannot even utter a single word. What happens to you? He said, my dear, there's a background for this, and I'm sure that background is responsible for this thing, that sometimes I'm not able to utter a single word. I'm totally rendered speechless. The story is, my father was a scholar. He was also a scholar. And Imam al-Juwayni rahimahullah, he received his early education from his father. And he was very pious. And he was tremendously pious, Imam al-Juwayni's father rahimahullah. He said that he used to just work and find out the halal means of rizqi. And he was very keen and he was very cautious about it, not to have any sort of haram means. And when I was born, he strictly advised my mother not to give me the milk of any other woman because he's not sure about the earnings of others. And he wanted to raise me upon the truly and specifically upon the halal earnings. So he strictly advised my mother, instructed my mother not to allow any woman to give me the milk. If perchance there was a need, but you should never give it. Imam Al-Juwayni says one day my mother was sick. She was immensely sick and she could not give me the milk. She could not suckle me and I was crying a lot. And the neighborhood woman, she heard my cries and she came and she began to suckle me. She began to give me the milk, to provide the breastfed to him. Imam Al-Juwayni says, Rahimahullah, coincidentally or fortunately, my father arrived and he saw that woman giving me the milk and became very angry and he snatched me from her lap and then asked her, please, you don't have to give milk to him. Imam Ibn Khalikan rahimahullah doesn't mention here, but it seems that the earning of that neighborhood was not lawful. That's why Imam Juwayni's father became very angry and he didn't allow her to provide the milk to his son, Imam Al-Juwayni rahimahullah. Ibn Khalikan says rahimahullah, Ibn Khalikan mentions that then my father pressed my stomach and then made me to vomit out so that the milk is taken out. And while this process, my father also said that I preferred my son die rather to be fed on the unlawful rizqi. I prefer my son die to leave this dunya than to be nourished on the unlawful rizqi. And my son, I think that time all the milk was vomited out, but I think that some of the drops remained there. And it is because of the inauspiciousness of those drops which were remained there. Sometimes when I'm debating with others, I don't know myself what happens to me, but I'm rendered speechless. Maybe it is effect of it is all effect is because of the drops. There were some drops remained in my stomach that time. So this is a high level of taqwa we can see. But on the other hand, we are swallowing the whole camels, but still we don't have just one single. There's no any regretful on our part. Prophet said, sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wasallam, that a person rubba ash'ath akbar. That a person ash'ath means disheveled hairs, shabby clothes, ash'ath akhbara, dusty clothes full of dust. And when a person, his hairs are not dressed up, it is disheveled, and there's quite dust upon the clothes, is a sign and indication of a long journey. When a person sets out on a long journey, definitely he might have that his hairs are not dressed up, they are disheveled, and his clothes are dusty. So it means this person has traveled a long distance, and then in the premises of Kaaba. At the premises of Kaaba, he's raising his hands and saying, Ya Rabbi, Ya Rabbi. Prophet, oh my Lord, oh my Lord. Prophet sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wasallam has said, his calling upon his Lord, he is supplicating to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Ya Rabbi, Ya Rabbi, oh my Lord, oh my Lord. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Prophet said sallallahu ta'ala wasallam, Anna yustajabu lah. How come Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will address to him? How come Allah will accept his supplications? How come Allah will answer his call? Why? Because ta'amuhu haram, his food is prohibited. Sharabuhu haram, his drink is forbidden. And his dress, his clothing is forbidden from the forbidden earning. His food is unlawful. His drink is unlawful. And his clothes are unlawful. So how come Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will accept him? How come Allah will address him? So if a person is not trying to find out the halal means of rizq, halal means of provision, then his ibadah will just fade away slowly. And he will not get the true pleasure out of the ibadah which he desired, which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has promised it for the ibadah. If a person is not trying his best to contain and block all the unlawful means, then it's not guaranteed such a person will get the taqwa. Because the first and foremost precondition for taqwa is blocking the means of unlawfulness. If a person does not block the means of unlawfulness, then its simple example is that if a person, then he goes to the doctor, doctor advises two things. One, prescription that you have to take this medicine timely, periodically this medicine. And second, prohibition. You don't have to take the cold things, you don't have to take this. Now this patient is taking all the medicine regularly and periodically, but at the same time, he will show its effect only when he avoids the prohibitions along with taking the medicines, he avoid the prohibitions. Then the medicine will show its true effect. Same applies to us. If a person is performing the ibadah, but at the same time he doesn't make his effort to avoid the prohibited things, specifically as far as the unlawful earning is concerned, then his ibadah, he will never feel the taste in the ibadah. And it will be very difficult for such a person to get close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us realize about the importance of halal rizqi. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make it easier for us, not to make it difficult for us. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala block all the ways of unlawful rizqi, unlawful provision for us, and open up the gateways of lawful rizqi for us, so that we are not indulged in any unlawful activity. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to provide us the true guidance, so that there's no any one single morsel of unlawful food which goes down to our throat. There's not a one single sip of unlawful drink which goes down to our stomach. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that there should be not a single one piece of cloth with which we wrap our body, which is based on the unlawfulness. That we have to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for this we have to make a lot of dua, and beside dua, we have to make a lot of efforts as well. No doubt we may face the difficulties. We may not be able to have the comforts of life as other people are having. We may not be able to have the pleasures of life as other people are having. What I mean to say pleasures of life means material pleasures of life. But if our Allah is pleased with us, what else we need? There's the utmost pleasure we can feel. There's no any pleasure of Allah which can compete with this pleasure. That's pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we need to focus upon this strictly. We should not give it up. Rather focus upon it and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make easier for us to have the access to the halal. Make it most difficult, rather impossible for us, even if our nafs wants it. Make it impossible for us to have the access to the unlawful food, unlawful drink, or unlawful earning, any sort of earning. Amin ya Rabbal Alameen.